You know, I have to come out of the closet. I am a big gay cartoon fan. I always have been. And I'm here holding a wonderful new book of cartoons, So Super Duper. And here's its creator, Brian Andersen.
Hey, I'm Brian.
Is it true? Is this the gayest superhero in history?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly.
And what makes him so gay? And what's his name?
His name is Psych. And the crux of my story is at first he doesn't know he's gay. He slowly realizes it, but it's painfully obvious to everyone around him. And it's kind of based on my own life because I'm a rather, I guess I'd say, stereotypical gay. I don't know.
So everyone was always telling you, you're so creative.
All the time. Or they always say, like, are you gay? And I'd be like, no, why would you say that about me? I'm not gay. And so I realized I want to put it into a story format where everyone around him knows he's gay. It's pretty clear. Maybe he's a little stereotypical, but that's part of his journey, is accepting who he is.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, all kidding aside, I think one of the reasons that I've always been such a cartoon and comic book fan was that you see stuff being worked out. I mean, sometimes you read fiction, it's so harsh, and you're like, you know, you're growing up a little teenage, you know, boy in Richmond, Virginia. Not a lot of stuff out there to really say this is good gay role models. But superheroes always seem to be helpful.
Yeah, that's the best thing about superheroes, is they're always trying to do something good for somebody else.
Right, I've never met a homophobic superhero.
Well, they're out there. But yeah, I think superheroes are always just trying to look at the better side of everybody, right? Even if you're maybe not the best person, even villains sometimes, they can try to help them to a certain extent, you know?
Right. Now, you grew up in Sunnyvale, California.
I did.
Did you always know you wanted to be a cartoonist?
I always wanted to be a comic book something. Creator, writer, cartoonist, whatever I could be involved in comic books, that was always my dream.
Right. Now, how rich is the comic book or cartoon community here in the Bay Area?
Really rich. There's quite a big group of people here in San Francisco who do their own underground comics. It's really large. There's a lot of us, especially queer underground comics is very big here in the city.
So, you know, I remember when I first came to San Francisco in the mid-1980s, the AIDS epidemic was, you know, at its worst, and there was a series of comics called Strip AIDS. It was the first comics to deal with AIDS and HIV. Has that sort of dealing with LGBT issues in comic form, i.e. telling serious stuff through comics, has it continued?
Yeah, I think the good thing about comics is it's a medium that you would assume is for children at first, but really they're quite thoughtful and they're quite powerful, and they really make people think about the world around them, and they can tackle issues that you maybe wouldn't see in TV or movies. So a lot of times they're kind of at the forefront of what's going on in culture, and that's what I love about comics, is that it's a brightly colored superhero who's flying around doing all this great stuff, but he's really dealing with real life issues that people can relate to.
Right. Now tell us a little bit about your hero, Psyche.
Psych.
Psych.
Like bike.
Like bike. And how and why did Psych get his name? And is that his superhero name when he discovers his powers?
Well, he starts the story already having his powers, and they're rather weak powers. They're just empathic powers, so all he can do is sense other people's emotions. And so you kind of wonder in the book, like, why is he a superhero? Why is he on this team? He's kind of feeble to a certain extent. And again, that's kind of based off myself, where I thought, if I was one day hit with radioactive waste, what kind of powers would I have? Probably something stupid like empathic abilities, right? Like, what can you do with that? So that was kind of the preface of my story, was if I was a superhero, what would I be as a superhero? And would I make it? Like, who would I be as a superhero?
And so why does his ability to be empathic make him super?
Because people don't really have that ability, so that's the only thing that makes him maybe a step above a regular person.
So he's kind of like a gay Commander Troy from Star Trek: The Next Generation. Yes. I know that's an obscure reference. My husband's going to kill me for that.
But I would say she's more of a badass than he is, at least in the beginning. Because again, he's very feeble, and I think the part of his story is he's kind of not sure of who he is at first. So he comes off as a rather unlikable character, but slowly as he realizes, oh, I'm gay and I'm this and I'm that, he comes a little more stronger, a little more powerful, and a little more of like a typical superhero that you would relate to and look up to.
So, you know, I'll take a leap here. The more out he becomes as a gay man, the stronger his powers
Exactly.
grow.
The more he accepts himself as a gay man, then the better he becomes as a person and as a superhero.
Right. Now, I have looked through this book, and I'm going to enjoy reading it after this interview. It's G-rated.
Yes.
Which is...
maybe PG-13-ish, but more G.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a couple kisses in here.
Yeah, but that's it.
But I mean, you know, I've read other comics, the gay comics, that are a bit racier. There are, and even some triple X's. Not this one.
Or quadruple X's.
Or quadruple X's,
No, this is, I definitely wanted to make it kind of all ages, I guess, and I think sometimes people might look at a book like this and think, ugh, what am I going to enjoy out of this? You know, I'm an adult, I want to see adult themes, but I want it to be something that anybody could read. straight, gay, fat, skinny, old, young, whatever you are, alien, mutant, you know, whatever you would be, somebody that can hopefully pick it up and enjoy a thoughtful story.
So who were your cartoonist inspirations when you were growing up?
Oh, so many. I mean, local comic book creator Trina Robbins, I don't know if you know her, she did a lot of girl comics, I guess you would say. There are a lot of comics geared towards girls. And back in her day, and she still does it, there weren't any comic books towards girls, really. So she was kind of a pioneer, and I always loved her art and her stories, and she's just somebody that never gave up. She always told her stories, was determined to tell them, and it's just such an inspiration to me.
And you know, you said something interesting that I'd not thought of before, that, oh, well, there are those anti-gay superheroes out there. Are there anti-gay comics?
I don't know, probably. I guess there's some crazy Christians. Not that all Christians are crazy or bad, but there are probably some out there that would probably do a comic book to reach their youth, I would assume. Because, again, comic books you think are geared towards the youth, so you try to approach certain themes in books.
Well, I mean, that raises my point. I mean, this book, you know, you couldn't sell this in Russia now. I mean, it's, you know.
Damn those Russians.
Well, I mean, you know, this would be considered, you know, subversive in some states.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even because it is G-rated, it might be sort of subversive to some people because they look at it and it's brightly colored, it's fun, it's kind of goofy, it's you know, a little bit cheesy at times. But then again, there's an underlying message that will surprise you if you read it, that there's more to it than just that.
Right. Now, you say that you saw yourself as more of a writer than an artist, correct?
Well, hopefully. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you see the...
It might be delusions. I don't know.
What do you see the legacy of this being? I mean, are we going to have more Super Duper? I mean, do you see this character, Psych, going on to a long career?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I want to do more books. So this is the first, I guess, chapter of him and his story. And my partner and I are having a baby through surrogacy, and it's going to be due in February. We don't know if it's a boy or girl, so it's an it. But I would love to do a story with Psych, maybe. At the end, he flies away with a character who looks like my partner. So I'd love to kind of follow them and to see, like, oh, they're going to have a baby. What happens when you're a superhero, gay couple, going to have a baby? Right. You know, what happens to their lives? Right. That's kind of want to follow that.
So besides the fabulous design superpower that you have, how much of Brian is in Psych?
100%, I guess. But I would say he's more me to the extent that I make him more of a caricature of me. You know, like he's maybe a little more annoying. I'm annoying, but he's maybe a little more annoying. He's maybe a little more flamboyant and fruity than I guess I would be.
Yeah.
But he's basically a base off of me.
Right. Now, in our last few moments, talk to me about how does your partner, husband, father of your child feel about
husband.
Future husband?
Yeah.
Yay. You know, you say you're going to be dealing with childhood, I mean, childbirth and all this. Does he ever come, you know, to you and he sees you working on this and like, Brian, please don't talk about this part of our life?
He actually embraces it, which is nice. He's not at all a comic book reader, per se. I'll force him to read things sometimes. And of course, he reads all of my stuff.
Right.
But yeah, he's actually, which is nice, very supportive. And people joke that we're a multi-mix relationship. I'm a comic book nerd and he's not.
Well, thank you for bringing your comic book to
Thanks
this
for having
nerd.
me.
We've been speaking with Brian Andersen, the creator of So Super Duper. I'm David Perry, the creator of 10%, and we think it's super duper you watch. We'll see you next week.
Bye.